A knock can be heard from the door. Afterwards, 2 attendants entered the room, bringing a change of clothes. Yuri replied, saying his thanks. The attendants reminded him that Master Soim is waiting for him at the dojo. Yuri replied back surprised, and said that he will hurry up in getting ready. The attendant excused themselves and left, leaving Yuri alone. He sighed to himself and said that he will never get used to the way they address him. It's been 3 years since Rook took over and became the head of the family, and they moved into the main house. Yuri, at 10 years old, having a hectic lifestyle in a completely different environment than before. A very large room, getting greeted by the people who worked at the mansion, having someone watch over him and taking care of him. His life completely changed from when he was a farmer. Luke has been doing a lot of work too, from the administration work to training the soldiers. He's busy from morning to night, and he also inspects the territory he left his vassals to handle. Even Yuri had been left alone to do most of his work, with occasional visits to give few instructions here and there. Yuri's mother Suzuya called out to Yuri while he was walking towards the dojo and asked if he's going to practice. Yuri replied that he is. Suzuya showed the seeds that she gathered and said that they will cook them and eat it later. Yuri said thanks and that he is looking forward to it. He thought that his mother never changed even after moving to the main house. Yuri headed towards the dojo. He opened the doors while apologizing that he was late, but he was cut off by an attack, but he managed to do dodge roll. It was Master Soim. He said to Yuri that he has good reflexes and he wanted to continue the training with that kind of spirit. Yuri fought with a spear while Soim deflected his attacks. Yuri changed his tactics by sending a flurry of spear thrust, but Soim still managed to deflect everything. Soim deflected Yuri's final thrust, grabbed his shoulder and destroyed his balance by sweeping his ankles. A loud thud echoed in the dojo. Yuri fell flat on the wooden floor. Soim told Yuri that if this is what he reached in training, the people would laugh at him in the institution. Soim advised Yuri that if he is out of breath, he needs to consider pulling out that time. Soim Hao is one of the knights who came back from retirement because Satsuki personally asked him to be Yuri's martial arts instructor. Soim's son and grandson were killed in 2 wars. He left the management of his territory to his vassals because he is too old to handle them. And apparently he is 90 years old, but he is having fun training a disciple like Yuri. Yuri replied that if he pulled back, the enemies would be able to surround him, then he will end up getting cornered. Soim replied that there is that, but if this was the battlefield and the enemies refused to fall back, then his comrade's weapon will kill the enemies, and he will be safe since they can't attack him anyway. Yuri agreed to his logic while wondering if Soim's age was really a 90. Soim told him enough talking and resumed the training. Yuri replied back with enthusiasm. A few hours later, he was smacked with a book. Satsuki was mad that Yuri was sleeping while she was teaching. Yuri replied that he will pay attention. Satsuki then explained it again. She added that Yuri should remember this as the paper lantern scraping the winter snow. Yuri was confused, so Satsuki explained it even more. She explained the complexities of the conjugation verb to Yuri. The ancient Shan language that Satsuki was teaching to Yuri is an old language from the great Shantila Empire. The verbs changes depending on the object, so there's an incredible number of conjugations, and it seems people have to memorize them all. Naturally, because of that, there's only few elites that have been able to master the language. And on top of that, this is only used in written language, not the spoken language. Yuri asked, what is the meaning of learning all of this? Satsuki replied that Yuri needs to learn at least this much in order to read the classics. She wondered why Yuri was so bad at the classics when it's just habitual memorization like history. Satsuki set a large number of books on the table, and said that Yuri needs to reach the level where he is able to read all the classics that are kept here. She added that he cannot call himself an educated person if he can't read the ancient Shan language. So she suggested to Yuri he should start practicing it by writing it many times. After Satsuki's tutoring class, Yuri was tired as walked along the hallway. He thought that this was torture. He needed some rest. He walked towards the room and knocked. Sham was inside studying. Yuri said hello, but he was ignored, so he poked her cheeks again like when they first met, and he kept poking her cheeks until she noticed him. Sham pulled away surprised, and Yuri replied that she was in deep thought again. Sham told him that the Kepler's laws that Yuri taught her are amazing. She added that the geocentric model explains Mercury's orbit and Mars's retrograde errors. It was different from the traditional model. Yuri asked about the traditional model, so Sham explained it to him. Sham said that the traditional model was the moon revolves around the Earth and sun orbits the Earth in the form of second moon, and around it was the other planets that orbits around the sun as a form of satellites. It was very complicated. But the Kepler's laws are all in harmony with each other and explains everything without forcing any settings. Yuri thought if it was possible to have this much of fun, he then wondered if he was ever this excited when he was researching in his previous life. But he immediately thought that he didn't. Sham was in the middle of talking, but Yuri cut her off. Yuri invited him to go outside and have some fun, and maybe she will see some interesting things. In the middle of the forest, Yuri said that the winter has settled already. Sham said that he talks like her father for some reason. Yuri felt like he was hit by a reality check, but he tried his best to ignore it. He asked Sham if she ever wondered why is this place in such a cold region. Sham replied that it was because the place was in the north. Yuri replied that the equator and this country have same total of number of hours of sunlight per year. He then hinted at the height of the sun. Sham replied, "Does the height of the sun even matter?" Yuri explained that holding your hand in an angle on top fireplace doesn't feel too hot, in contrast of holding it directly on top because the amount of heat irradiated is proportional to the area seen from the heat source. The sun's light is low on this place, and the surface of Earth is always on an angle to the sun. The amount of heat supplied to the Earth's surface is less than half that of the area directly below the equator, so it affects the temperature. Sham excitedly said that it was an interesting topic, so Yuri continued explaining, thinking that she's fallen for the bait. Yuri asked Sham, "Why do trees drop leaves?" Yuri replied saying that it's true because it's that kind of tree. The leaves freezes, the tissues die, but it's also a huge burden for the tree to make them or change them. Sham replied that if it's a little cold, the leaves can survive by making the leaves thicker and lowering the temperature by adding impurities to the sap. But their place was too cold for the trees, so they have no choice to drop the leaves. She added that in warmer climates, plants with thin and broad leaves thrive all year round. That means the environment in those countries have a lot more heat, so it may be necessary to take measures to prevent leaf-eating insects. Yuri told Sham that it was a great answer. He thought that Sham was a really smart and curious girl. He thought that he might have lived a peaceful life in his previous life if he had a daughter like her. He noticed himself acting like an old man again. He thought that this is what a peaceful life should be. Later that evening, Rook was sitting in the dining table, visibly exhausted. Yuri said that he's been working a lot lately, while Satsuki said that he should entrust some of the work to others, so that he can come home early. Yuri asked his mother if she is getting used to the lifestyle here. Satsuki replied that she was confused at first, but she got along with the maids, and she has a garden, so she was having fun. Yuri was thankful that her mother doesn't easily get swept by others. He thought it's not possible for peasants to acquire knowledge of domestic and military affairs. There doesn't seem to be any problem since Suzuya will be attending social gatherings on his behalf. He was worried during the succession, but it turned out well in the end. Rook said that he never imagined that the head of the household would have too much work. Yuri replied that they will be farming tomorrow so he can take it easy. Rook replied that the plan has changed. This surprised Yuri. Rook then said that an epidemic broke in a town in the south. It was the floating pox disease. Floating pox disease, it was written in a book in Gauk's study. It stated that the floating pox was an epidemic brought from the world of the Kura people during the Great Empire era, and many people lost their lives. People believed that it was a curse, and it comes in a form of poison released from within the earth. There was no scientific basis, and medical technology hasn't developed yet, so he can't let Rook go on an inspection to the affected area. So Yuri told him that he should leave it alone, but Rook immediately replied that he can't leave it alone. The people are troubled, and as the head of the territory, he needs to go. Yuri asked him that wouldn't it be a problem if he was to get infected. Rook replied that he's just worrying too much. He added that it won't be easily transmitted that easy. So Yuri said that he will join the inspection. Suzuya and Rook gave a worried expression. Yuri said that if it's not transmitted that easy, then there should be no problem if he joins the inspection. And this marks the end of Chapter 9.
Like and subscribe, and click the bell icon so you can be notified for future updates. For other videos like this, click here. Thanks for watching.